My name is Angelina Taylor. I'm 38 years old, and I'm standing in the grand living room of what used to be my home, a $3.5 million mansion I helped build with 15 years of silent sacrifice. The chandelier above catches the afternoon light, casting shadows across 50 familiar faces gathered for what my husband called a family meeting. I notice my children, Emma and Lucas, sitting stiffly beside their father, their eyes fixed on the Persian rug beneath their feet. Emma is 14, Lucas is 11, and neither of them will look at me. The room smells like expensive perfume and fresh flowers, white lilies in crystal vases, the kind Marcus's mother always insisted on. I'm wearing a cream-colored dress I bought 3 years ago, back when I still cared about impressing these people. My hands are folded in my lap, fingers interlaced so tightly my knuckles have gone white. I can feel my wedding ring cutting into my skin. Marcus stands near the fireplace, one hand resting on the marble mantel like he's posing for a portrait. He's wearing his navy suit, the one he wore when he closed his biggest deal last year. His salt and pepper hair is perfectly styled. He looks like success. He looks like a man who has everything figured out. He clears his throat, and the room falls silent. 50 pairs of eyes turn toward him, his business partners, his college friends, his mother Diane, sitting in the wingback chair near the window, her pearls catching the light. My own sister is here, standing near the doorway, her face pale and confused. "Thank you all for coming," Marcus says, his voice steady and warm. "I know this is unusual, but Angelina and I wanted you all to hear this together from us as a family." My stomach drops. Angelina and I, we, us, I haven't agreed to anything. After a lot of difficult conversations, Marcus continues. Angelina has agreed to leave. The house, the kids, everything stays with me. She's signing the papers today. The words hang in the air like smoke. I stop breathing. My vision narrows to a single point. Marcus's face, calm and composed, like he's announcing a business merger, instead of the end of my life. 50 pairs of eyes turn to me, waiting, expecting me to nod, to smile, to confirm this story he's telling. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. My throat has closed. My hands are shaking now, trembling against my thighs. My mother-in-law smiles from the corner, a sharp, victorious smile that doesn't reach her eyes. In that frozen moment, I realize this humiliation was planned, rehearsed, choreographed down to the last detail, and I walked right into it. But what they don't know is that I've been quiet for too long, and silence has made me very, very observant. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, like your voice didn't matter anymore, stay with me. This is just the beginning. Hit like if you want to see how I took everything back. I didn't sign anything that day, but I did start remembering things, small things Marcus thought I'd forgotten. I met Marcus when I was 23. He was charming, ambitious, and came from a family that treated wealth like oxygen. You either had it or you suffocated. I was a graphic designer with a small studio in Brooklyn, working out of a converted loft I shared with 2 roommates, Sarah, who was a photographer, and Maya, who wrote poetry and waited tables at a vegan cafe. The loft had exposed brick walls, creaky wooden floors, and windows that let in the most beautiful afternoon light. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Every corner of that space held pieces of my dreams, sketches pinned to the walls, paint-stained dropcloths, a second-hand desk I'd refinished myself. I designed logos for local coffee shops, the kind of places where the baristas knew your order by heart. I created album covers for indie bands who played in basement venues, and dreamed of making it big. I made wedding invitations for friends who paid me in homemade dinners in gratitude, and I didn't mind because I loved what I did. Every project felt personal, meaningful. I wasn't making a fortune, but I was making art. I was building something that belonged entirely to me. My days had a rhythm back then. I'd wake up early, make coffee in the French press Sarah bought at a flea market, and work until the light faded. Sometimes I'd meet clients at the coffee shop on the corner, spreading my portfolio across sticky tables while we talked about color schemes and brand identity. Other times I'd stay in the studio until 2 in the morning, lost in a design, my hands stained with ink, and my eyes burning from staring at the screen too long. I was happy, not perfectly happy. I worried about rent, about whether I'd have enough clients next month, about whether I was good enough to make it in a city full of talented people. But I was free. I answered to no one but myself. Marcus walked into my studio on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I remember the date because it was my birthday, and I'd planned to celebrate with cheap wine and takeout with my roommates. He knocked on the door, 3 sharp raps, and when I opened it, he was standing there in a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, holding a leather portfolio under one arm. He had this energy about him, this magnetic presence that filled the entire room the moment he stepped inside. He needed branding for his startup, some tech platform I didn't fully understand, but nodded along to anyway. Something about connecting businesses with freelancers, creating networks, disrupting traditional employment models. He used words like synergy and scalability and market penetration, and I pretended to follow along while really just studying his face. He had strong features, dark eyes that never stopped moving, always scanning, always calculating. He talked fast, with his hands, gesturing wildly as he described his vision. His eyes were bright, with the kind of certainty that makes you believe anything is possible, the kind of confidence that's either genius or delusion, and at 23, I couldn't tell the difference. He spread his materials across my desk, rough sketches, competitor analyses, a business plan that was more optimism than strategy. He said he loved my portfolio, that my work had soul, that I understood how to tell a story through design. He said I had vision. No one had ever said that to me before. My professors in college had called my work competent. My clients said it was nice, but Marcus said I had vision, and I felt something shift inside me. We worked through the afternoon and into the evening. He ordered Thai food from the place down the street, and we ate it straight from the containers, sitting on the floor of my studio, because I only had one chair. He told me about his childhood, growing up in a family where success wasn't just expected, it was mandatory, where failure was worse than death, because at least death was final, but failure meant disappointing everyone who'd invested in you. He told me about his father, who'd built a real estate empire from nothing, and his mother, who'd married into old money and never let anyone forget it. I told him about my childhood too, weekend trips to the hardware store with my dad, learning to fix things with my hands, my mother grading papers at the kitchen table late at night, red pen in hand, dedicated to students who'd never remember her name. I told him how I'd always loved art, how I'd filled notebooks with drawings as a kid, how my parents had supported my dream even though they didn't understand it. They sound wonderful, Marcus said, and he sounded like he meant it. I fell in love with him somewhere between the second meeting and the first kiss, which happened in my studio after midnight, surrounded by sketches and empty coffee cups. We'd been working on his logo for hours, going through revision after revision, and suddenly he was standing behind me, looking over my shoulder at the screen, and I could feel the heat of his body. He smelled like expensive cologne, something woody and sophisticated that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I turned to say something, and he kissed me. It was sudden, confident, like everything else about him. He tasted like ambition, an expensive cologne, and I kissed him back like I was drowning, and he was air. The next few months were a whirlwind. Marcus called me every day. He took me to restaurants I couldn't afford, places with white tablecloths and wine lists thicker than books. He introduced me to his world, networking events and gallery openings and rooftop parties, where everyone seemed to know everyone. I felt out of place at first, in my thrift store dresses and second-hand jewelry, but Marcus always kept his hand on the small of my back, anchoring me, making me feel like I belonged. His mother, Diane, looked at me like I was a stain on her silk curtains the first time we met. It was at a family dinner at her penthouse on the Upper East Side, the kind of place where even the air felt expensive. The elevator opened directly into her apartment, no hallway, no waiting, just immediate opulence, crystal chandeliers, antique furniture, artwork that belonged in museums. She was waiting in the foyer, perfectly coiffed in a cashmere twin set, and those pearls she never took off. She looked me up and down with cold, assessing eyes, and I felt myself shrinking under her gaze. She asked what my parents did. Her voice was pleasant, but there was something sharp underneath, like a knife wrapped in velvet. I told her my father was a mechanic, and my mother was a teacher. She smiled tightly and said, "How quaint." The word hung in the air like a judgment. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, but he didn't defend me. He just smiled, and changed the subject. But Marcus said he loved me, and I believed him. He said it one night, while we were walking through Central Park, the city lights reflected in the lake, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. I said it back without hesitation, and I meant it with everything I had. So I gave up my studio to support his startup. Not all at once, it happened gradually, like falling asleep, like drowning. First I started working on his projects for free, branding, pitch decks, investor presentations, just until we get funding, he said. Then I'll pay you properly, I'll pay you double what you're worth. The funding came 6 months later, and suddenly he needed me full-time. Just until we launch, he said, just until we get established. I told my clients I was taking a break. I gave up my space in the loft. Sarah and Maya looked at me with concern, but I assured them it was temporary, that I was investing in our future. Then we launched, and he needed me to host dinners for investors, to smile and pour wine, and make conversation, while he closed deals in the next room. I learned to talk about market trends and quarterly projections. I learned which investors like to be flattered, and which ones respected directness. I learned to laugh at jokes that weren't funny, and to make myself invisible when the conversation turned to business. I wasn't supposed to hear. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was building something with him, that my sacrifice mattered, that we were a team, that when the company succeeded, it would be our success, not just his. When his company finally took off, really took off, the kind of success that gets written about in Forbes and TechCrunch, he bought the mansion, 5 bedrooms, marble floors, a kitchen bigger than my old studio. It had a curved staircase, and a chandelier in the entryway and windows that overlooked a garden I'd never have time to tend. He carried me over the threshold like we were newlyweds, even though we'd been married for 3 years by then. I laughed and told him he was being ridiculous, but secretly I loved it. I thought it meant something, but the deed only had his name. I noticed it when the papers arrived, but I didn't say anything at first. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Then I asked about it, casually, while we were having dinner one night. "It's just a formality," he said, when I asked about it, not even looking up from his phone. "For tax purposes. You know how it is." I didn't know how it was, but I smiled and nodded. I always smiled and nodded. I'd become very good at that. I gave him 2 beautiful children. Emma came first, with her father's dark hair, and my green eyes, born on a snowy February morning, after 18 hours of labor. Marcus held her for exactly 5 minutes before his phone rang, and he had to take a call from Tokyo. Lucas followed 3 years later, all elbows and laughter and endless questions, the kind of child who asked why about everything, and never accepted simple answers. They were perfect. They were mine, except they weren't just mine, they were ours, and somehow ours always meant his. I hosted his business dinners, learning to cook dishes I'd never heard of, practicing until I could make coq au vin and beef Wellington without breaking a sweat. I organized charity galas, spending weeks planning events where Marcus gave speeches, and I stood in the background, smiling. I became the perfect wife, the kind of woman who knew which fork to use, and which conversation topics to avoid, and how to laugh at jokes that weren't funny. I knew when to speak and when to stay silent. I knew how to make his colleagues feel important, and his mother feel respected, even though she never respected me. And somewhere along the way, I disappeared, not physically. I was there at every dinner party, every school function, every business trip where wives were expected to attend, but the woman I'd been, the artist with ink-stained hands and big dreams, vanished. I couldn't remember the last time I'd picked up a pencil to sketch something just for myself. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt that spark of creativity, that joy of making something beautiful. I didn't know it then, but that mansion was never meant to be mine. It was bait. 3 days after the family meeting, Marcus's lawyer calls me. His name is Richard Grayson, and his office is in Midtown, on the 42nd floor of a building made entirely of glass and steel. The building is one of those modern towers that reflects the sky, making it look like it's made of clouds and light, instead of concrete and ambition. I take the subway there, because I don't trust myself to drive, my hands still shaking every time I remember Marcus's voice saying Angelina has agreed to leave in front of 50 people who used to be my friends. The lobby is all marble and chrome, with security guards who look like they're auditioning for a Secret Service role. I give my name to the woman at the front desk. She's young, maybe 25, with perfect makeup, and a smile that's been practiced in a mirror. She makes a call, nods, and directs me to the elevators. 42nd floor, she says. "Mr. Grayson is expecting you." The elevator is silent, except for the soft classical music playing through hidden speakers. I watch the numbers climb. 10th floor, 20th, 30th. My reflection stares back at me from the polished steel doors. I look older than I did 3 days ago. There are shadows under my eyes that weren't there before. My hair is pulled back in a ponytail, because I couldn't bring myself to style it this morning. I'm wearing a simple black dress and flats, nothing fancy, nothing that screams woman about to lose everything. The elevator opens into a reception area that looks like it was designed to intimidate. Leather furniture, abstract art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the city. The receptionist here is older, more polished, wearing a suit that probably costs more than my monthly grocery budget used to be. She looks up as I approach. "Mrs. Taylor." "Yes, Mr. Grayson, will be with you in just a moment. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" The receptionist offers me water. I decline. My mouth is too dry to swallow anyway. My throat feels like I've swallowed sand. I sit on one of the leather chairs and wait, my purse clutched in my lap like a shield. I wait for 7 minutes. I know because I'm watching the clock on the wall, a modern piece that's more art than timepiece. 7 minutes of sitting in that reception area, listening to the soft murmur of phones ringing, and people talking in offices I can't see. 7 minutes of watching other clients come and go. A man in an expensive suit who looks angry. A woman with red eyes, who looks like she's been crying. A young couple holding hands who look terrified. Finally, the receptionist's phone buzzes. She picks it up, listens, and nods. Mrs. Taylor, Mr. Grayson will see you now. Third door on the right. I stand. My legs feel weak, but I force them to move. The hallway is lined with more art, more windows, more evidence of money and power. I find the third door on the right. It's already open. Richard's office smells like leather and old money. It's a smell I've become familiar with over the years of attending Marcus's business functions. That particular combination of expensive cologne, old books, and furniture that costs more than most people make in a year. Dark wood paneling covers the walls, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with legal volumes that probably haven't been touched in decades. A desk the size of my childhood bedroom dominates the space, its surface clear except for a single folder, a fountain pen, and a photo of Richard with what I assume is his family, a blonde wife, and 2 blonde children, all of them smiling with perfect teeth. He's in his 50s, with silver hair styled in that way that's supposed to look casual but probably requires expensive products and a skilled barber. He's wearing a navy suit with a red tie, and when he looks up at me, his smile doesn't reach his eyes. It's the kind of smile that's designed to put people at ease, while simultaneously reminding them who has the power in the room. He gestures to the chair across from his desk. Mrs. Taylor, thank you for coming. I sit. My hands are folded in my lap again, fingers interlaced. It's become a habit, this holding myself together. If I don't hold my hands together, they shake. If I don't press my fingers tight, I might fall apart completely. I've been holding myself together like this for 3 days now, ever since that meeting, and I'm not sure how much longer I can do it. Richard settles into his chair, a high-backed leather throne that probably cost more than my first car. He takes a moment to arrange himself, to project authority and control. Everything about him is calculated, from the way he sits to the way he looks at me with that practiced expression of professional sympathy. I know this must be difficult for you, he begins, and I want to laugh because difficult doesn't even begin to cover it. Divorce is never easy, especially when children are involved. I don't respond, I just wait. Richard slides a stack of papers across the desk. They're bound with a black clip, official-looking, covered in dense paragraphs of legal text that blur together when I try to focus on them. The top page has my name on it, Angelina Marie Taylor, and seeing it there, reduced to text on a legal document, makes everything feel suddenly horribly real. I don't touch them, I just stare at the papers like they're a snake that might strike. Your husband is offering you a very generous settlement, Richard says, leaning back in his chair. His voice is smooth, practiced, the voice of someone who's delivered this speech 100 times before. $200,000, and a clean break, no custody, no property. The words hang in the air, $200,000. I stare at the number on the top page, trying to make sense of it. I stare at the number, 200,000, for 15 years, for 2 children, for a business I helped build that's now worth over $18 million. For every late night I spent working on presentations while Marcus slept. For every investor dinner I hosted, every hand I shook, every smile I forced. For giving up my studio, my dreams, my identity. $200,000. That's what Marcus thinks I'm worth. And if I don't sign, my voice comes out quieter than I intended, barely more than a whisper. I clear my throat and try again. What happens if I don't sign? Richard's smile tightens. It's a subtle change, but I catch it, the way his lips thin, the way his eyes go a shade colder. He steeples his fingers, elbows resting on the arms of his chair, and leans forward slightly. It's a power move, a way of invading my space, without actually moving. Then we go to court, and Mrs. Taylor, I have to be honest with you. He pauses, and I can tell he's about to deliver a blow. Marcus has already secured testimonies that you've been unstable, neglectful. We have witnesses. The word unstable echoes in my head. My chest tightens. The air in the room feels thick, hard to breathe, like someone's turned off the oxygen. I can feel my heart pounding, hear the blood rushing in my ears. Witnesses. I repeat the word, trying to understand what he's saying. Your mother-in-law, several family friends, people who've observed your behavior over the years. Richard's voice remains calm, almost gentle, like he's explaining something simple to a child. Your postpartum depression is well documented. The medication you were prescribed, the therapy sessions you stopped attending, each word is a knife. He's listing facts about my life, about my darkest moments, and turning them into weapons. The postpartum depression that nearly destroyed me after Lucas was born. The medication I took, because I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't stop crying, couldn't feel anything but overwhelming darkness. The therapy sessions I stopped attending, because Marcus said we needed to cut unnecessary expenses, right before he bought himself a new car. He says it all so calmly, like he's reading a grocery list. Like my pain is just another item on his agenda, something to check off before lunch. My hands are shaking now. I can feel the tremors running through my entire body. I press them harder together, fingers digging into my own skin, hard enough to leave marks. I was depressed after Lucas was born. That doesn't make me a bad mother. Of course not, Richard says smoothly, and there's something almost patronizing in his tone. But in court, context matters, and the context Marcus will present is that you've been emotionally absent from your children's lives for years, that you prioritized your own needs over theirs, that you're not fit for custody. Emotionally absent, not fit for custody. The words land like punches. I think about Emma's school plays, every single one of which I attended. I think about Lucas's soccer games, how I was there cheering in the rain, while Marcus was too busy with work. I think about homework help, and bedtime stories, and midnight comfort when they had nightmares. I think about being there, always being there, even when I was drowning in my own darkness. The room tilts, the walls seem to close in. I grip the edge of the desk to steady myself, my knuckles going white. The polished wood is cool under my palms, solid, real. I focus on that sensation, trying to anchor myself. Richard watches me with those cold eyes, waiting for me to break. I can see it in his expression. He expects me to cry, to beg, to sign those papers just to make this nightmare end. He's probably seen it 100 times before. Women like me, broken down and desperate, signing away their rights, because they can't fight anymore. I need time, I whisper. My voice sounds far away, like it's coming from someone else. Richard checks his watch. A Rolex, gold, ostentatious, the kind of watch that screams wealth and power. He makes a show of it, lifting his wrist slowly, studying the face, like he's considering a difficult question. But we both know he's already decided. You have 48 hours, Mrs. Taylor. After that we file. He says it matter-of-factly, like he's telling me a restaurant's closing time. I'd encourage you to think very carefully about your options. Going to court will be expensive, exhausting, and ultimately futile. Marcus has the resources to fight this for years if necessary. Do you? The threat is implicit but clear. He has money, he has power, he has witnesses ready to lie about me under oath. What do I have? I stand on legs that don't feel entirely solid. The room spins for a moment, and I have to steady myself against the chair. Richard doesn't offer to help. He just watches, that same cold smile on his face. 48 hours, he repeats. I'll be waiting for your call. I walk out of that office, past the receptionist, with her sympathetic smile, that doesn't reach her eyes either. Everyone in this place has been trained to smile, without meaning it, into the elevator, where I press the button for the lobby with a shaking finger, down 42 floors, watching the numbers descend, each one feeling like a countdown to the end of my life, as I know it, out onto the street, where the noise of the city crashes over me like a wave. Car horns, sirens, people shouting, the rumble of the subway beneath my feet. The autumn air is cold against my face, and I realize I'm crying. Tears are streaming down my cheeks, and I don't remember when they started. I walk. I don't know where I'm going. I just walk, block after block, past stores and restaurants, and people who have no idea that my world is ending. A woman bumps into me, mutters sorry, and keeps going. A man tries to hand me a flyer for a new gym. A street performer plays violin on a corner, the music beautiful and sad. I leave that building shaking, but not from fear, from rage. It builds slowly, starting as a small flame in my chest, and growing with each step. Rage at Marcus for doing this. Rage at Richard for threatening me. Rage at Diane for lying about me. Rage at myself for letting it get this far, for being so blind, so trusting, so stupid. By the time I reach the subway station, the fear has burned away completely, leaving only cold, focused anger. That night, I went into Marcus's study. I wasn't looking for anything specific, but I found it anyway. The study is Marcus's kingdom. Mahogany desk, leather chair, walls lined with awards and framed magazine covers featuring his face. The air smells like his cologne, that expensive brand he's worn for years, the scent that used to make me feel safe, and now just makes me feel sick. I'm not supposed to be in here. Marcus made that clear years ago. I need a space that's just mine, he said. You understand, right? And I did. I always understood, but I don't care anymore. The house is empty. Marcus took the kids to his mother's for the weekend. To give you space, he said. Like he was doing me a favor. Like I needed space. Instead of my children. I start with the drawers. The top one is full of pens and business cards. Rubber-banded stacks of them from conferences and networking events. The second drawer has tax documents, neatly filed and labeled. The third has old photos. Marcus at college. Marcus at his first office. Marcus shaking hands with investors. I'm about to close the drawer when I see it. Tucked behind a stack of investor files. A dusty brown envelope, unsealed, like someone forgot it existed. My hands are steadier now as I pull it out. The envelope is old, the edges worn. There's no label, no writing on the outside. I open it. Inside, there's a single document. I unfold it carefully, my heart starting to pound. It's a partnership agreement, dated 16 years ago, before Marcus and I were even married. The header reads, Collaborative Partnership Agreement, between Marcus Taylor and David Hu. I read it slowly, twice, 3 times. The company that made Marcus millions, the company that bought this mansion, that paid for private schools, and luxury vacations and everything we have, wasn't his idea, it was theirs. Marcus and David Hu, 50-50 partners, but David's name isn't on anything now, not on the company website, not in any of the press releases, not in any of the investor documents I've seen over the years. It's like he never existed. I flip through the pages, my hand shaking again, but this time with something that feels like electricity. There's a clause on page 3. In the event of partnership dissolution, all intellectual property and assets revert to original collaborative ownership, unless formally transferred. And there, at the bottom of the last page, Marcus's signature, bold and confident, the same signature he uses on our anniversary cards and mortgage documents, and the divorce papers Richard Grayson wants me to sign. No transfer was ever filed. I would know. I've seen Marcus's business documents, organized his files, sat through enough meetings to understand how these things work. I sit back in Marcus's leather chair, the partnership agreement spread across his desk. My heart is pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. Marcus didn't just steal from me, he stole from David too. I take my phone from my pocket. My hands are steady now, steadier than they've been in days. I photograph every page of the agreement, making sure the signatures are clear, the dates visible, the clauses legible. Then I put the envelope back exactly where I found it, tucked behind the investor files, dusty and forgotten. I walk out of the study, close the door behind me, and stand in the hallway for a long moment breathing. I took a photo of every page, and then I started looking for David Hu. David Hu is not hard to find. A quick search on LinkedIn shows he's now a software engineer in Portland, living a quiet life far from the Manhattan tech scene. Marcus still dominates. His profile picture shows a man in his early 40s with kind eyes and graying hair, standing in front of what looks like a hiking trail. His bio mentions his wife, Grace, and their daughter Lily. No mansions, no investor parties, no magazine covers. I send him an email at 11 o'clock at night, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea. I don't drink. The subject line, about the company you built. The body is simple, Mr. Hu. My name is Angelina Taylor. I'm Marcus Taylor's wife. I found something I think you should see. Can we talk? He responds within an hour. I'll be in New York next week for work. Coffee. We meet at a small cafe in Greenwich Village, the kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I arrive early, order chamomile tea. I still don't drink, and sit by the window watching people pass. David walks in at exactly 2 o'clock. He's taller than I expected, wearing jeans and a sweater, carrying a worn leather messenger bag. He spots me immediately. I'm the only person sitting alone, clutching a folder like it's a life raft. Angelina, he asks. I nod. He sits across from me, orders black coffee from the waitress, and waits. I slide the partnership agreement across the table. No preamble, no small talk. Where did you get this? His voice is quiet, controlled, but I can see his hands tighten around the document. From the man who erased you, I say. David reads in silence. The cafe noise, clinking cups, quiet conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, fades into background static. I watch his face carefully. His jaw tightens, his eyes move across the pages slowly, like he's reading a language he thought he'd forgotten. When he finally looks up, his eyes are wet. He told me the company failed, David says. His voice cracks on the last word. 6 months after we launched, Marcus called me into his office. He had spreadsheets, projections, all these numbers showing we were hemorrhaging money. He said we had to shut it down before we went bankrupt. I trusted him. I walked away with nothing because I trusted him. I leaned forward, my elbows on the table. He lied. The company's worth 18 million now, and legally, half of it is still yours. David stares at the agreement in his hands. Why are you helping me? I meet his gaze. Because he took everything from both of us, and I want him to feel what that's like. David is quiet for a long moment, then he reaches across the table and shakes my hand. His grip is firm, solid, real. Okay, he says. Let's do this. David and I shook hands that day. By the end of the week we had a lawyer, a real one. I return home with 8 hours left on Richard Grayson's 48-hour deadline. The drive back feels surreal, like I'm watching myself from outside my body. My hands grip the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles are white. The radio is off. I can't stand the noise. The cheerful voices of DJs talking about traffic and weather like the world isn't ending, like my life isn't being dismantled piece by piece. The house is dark when I pull into the driveway. Our driveway, except it's not ours, is it? It's his. The deed says so. The lawyer's papers say so. Everything says so except the 15 years I spent making this place a home. The house looms in front of me. All 5 bedrooms and marble floors and windows that cost more than most people's cars. It looks cold in the darkness, unwelcoming, like it knows I don't belong here anymore. The landscaping lights are on, illuminating the perfect hedges I never planted, the flower beds I never designed. Diane chose everything, down to the color of the mulch. Marcus's car is in the garage, the black Tesla he bought last year, the one with the custom plates that read Founder. I remember when he brought it home, how excited he was. How he made me come outside to see it. Feel the leather, he'd said, running his hand over the seats like they were made of silk. Smell that new car smell. This is what success smells like, Angelina. I'd smiled and nodded, like always. I didn't mention that success apparently didn't include putting my name on the deed to our house, or giving me access to the business accounts, or treating me like a partner instead of an employee. He didn't have to pay. I sit in my car for a long moment, engine off, hands still gripping the wheel. Through the window, I can see into the living room. There's a light on, the lamp by the sofa, the one with the Tiffany shade that Diane insisted we buy, because it's an investment piece. I take a deep breath and get out of the car. The night air is cool, carrying the scent of the neighbor's jasmine and the distant smell of someone's fireplace. It's the kind of evening I used to love, back when this house felt like home instead of a prison. I find him in the living room, the same room where he humiliated me in front of 50 people just 3 days ago. The same room where he stood by the fireplace and announced that I'd agreed to leave, where 50 pairs of eyes turned to me expecting confirmation of a lie I never told. The furniture is still arranged the same way, the leather sofa facing the fireplace, the wingback chairs positioned just so, the coffee table with its crystal bowl that we're not allowed to put anything in because it's decorative. He's sitting on the leather sofa, drinking scotch from a crystal glass, the expensive kind, the Macallan 18 that costs $300 a bottle. He's scrolling through his phone, his face illuminated by the blue light of the screen. He's changed out of his work clothes into casual wear, designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than the entire wardrobe I owned when we met. The chandelier is off, but the lamp beside him casts shadows across his face, making him look older, harder. Or maybe he's always looked like this, and I just didn't want to see it. You're back, he says without looking up. His voice is casual, almost bored, like I've just returned from the grocery store instead of from a meeting with his lawyer who threatened to destroy me in court. Decided to be reasonable. The word reasonable hits me like a slap. Reasonable, as if accepting $200,000 for 15 years of my life is reasonable, as if walking away from my children is reasonable, as if letting him erase me is reasonable. I don't answer. I can't trust my voice right now. If I open my mouth, I might scream. I might say things I can't take back. So I stay silent and walk past him, my footsteps muffled by the Persian rug that cost $15,000. I walk up the curved staircase, my hand sliding along the banister that I've polished 100 times, down the hallway lined with family photos, pictures of us smiling at the beach, at Disneyland, at Christmas, all lies, or maybe they were true once, and I just can't remember when the truth turned into fiction. I go to the children's rooms. Emma's door is closed, but I can see light beneath it, a warm glow that means she's still awake, even though it's past her bedtime. I knock softly, my knuckles barely making a sound against the wood. Come in, she says. I open the door slowly. Her room is exactly as she left it this morning, bed unmade, clothes draped over her desk chair, posters of her favorite bands on the walls. She's sitting cross-legged on her bed, earbuds in, laptop open in front of her. The screen casts a bluish light across her face. She's probably on social media, talking to her friends, living in that teenage world where everything feels both desperately important and completely trivial. She pulls the earbuds out when she sees me. There's something in her expression, weariness, maybe, or sadness. She knows something's wrong. Of course she knows. She's 14, not stupid. Hi mom, hi baby. The word baby catches in my throat. She's not a baby anymore. She's almost as tall as me now, all long limbs and emerging independence. But she's still my baby. She'll always be my baby. I sit on the edge of her bed, careful not to disturb the laptop. The mattress dips under my weight. She's wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with little stars scattered across navy blue fabric. I bought them for her last Christmas, back when I still thought we were a family. She looks so much older than 14 right now, her eyes tired and wary, like she's seen things she shouldn't have to see. Are you leaving? She asks. Her voice is small, younger than it should be, stripped of the teenage bravado she usually wears like armor. The question breaks something inside me. I can feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I force them back. I can't cry in front of her. I can't let her see me break. Not forever, I say. I take her hand. It's warm and familiar, and I remember when it was so small it could barely wrap around my finger. I promise, I'm just figuring some things out, but I'm not abandoning you, never. She nods, but I can see she doesn't entirely believe me. Why would she? Her father has spent weeks telling her a different story. I can imagine what he said, that mom's been unstable, that mom needs help, that mom isn't capable of taking care of them anymore. He's been planting seeds, preparing the ground for this moment. Dad says you're sick, Emma says quietly, not meeting my eyes. He says you need space to get better. Sick. The word tastes like poison. He's using my postpartum depression against me, twisting the darkest period of my life into a weapon. I'm not sick, baby, I say, squeezing her hand. I'm fighting for us, for you and Lucas and me. Do you understand? She nods again, and this time I think she might actually believe me. Or maybe she just wants to. I kiss her forehead, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, something fruity and teenage that she insisted on buying last month. I love you, I tell her. More than anything in this world. Don't ever forget that. I love you too, Mom, she whispers. I force myself to stand, to let go of her hand, to walk away even though every instinct is screaming at me to stay, to hold her, to protect her from what's coming. I move to Lucas's room. His door is slightly ajar, and I can hear his soft breathing before I even step inside. He's already asleep, sprawled across his bed in that boneless way only children can manage. His blankets are kicked off, tangled at the foot of the bed. His stuffed dinosaur, a green T-Rex named Rexy that he's had since he was 3, is tucked under one arm. I step inside quietly, careful not to wake him. His room smells like little boy, a mixture of grass stains and bubblegum and the faint scent of the lavender spray I use on his sheets to help him sleep. There are Lego creations on every surface, half-finished drawings scattered across his desk, a stack of library books on his nightstand. I pull the blankets over him gently, tucking them around his shoulders. He stirs slightly, mumbling something in his sleep, but doesn't wake. I brush his hair back from his forehead. It's getting long, needs a cut, but he hates the barber, so I've been putting it off. I love you, I whisper so quietly the words are barely more than breath. I'm going to fix this, I promise. He doesn't hear me. He's dreaming, probably about dinosaurs or superheroes or whatever 11-year-old boys dream about. He's innocent in all of this, and I'm going to make sure he stays that way. Then I pack a small bag, just clothes and toiletries, nothing sentimental. I move through my bedroom like a ghost, pulling items from drawers in the closet, a few pairs of jeans, some shirts, underwear, my toothbrush. I don't take jewelry or photos or any of the things that might make this feel permanent. This is temporary. It has to be. Marcus is still in the living room when I come back downstairs, bag in hand. He looks up this time, his eyes tracking me as I walk toward the door. Running away? He asks, and there's something ugly in his voice, something triumphant. I stop. I turn to look at him, really look at him. This man I loved, this man I built a life with, this man who's trying to destroy me. No, I say quietly, I'm not running, I'm regrouping, and then I leave. That night I stay in a hotel in Midtown. It's not fancy, just clean and quiet, with a view of the street below. The room is generic, beige walls, industrial carpet, a bed with white sheets that smell like bleach. There's a small desk by the window, a TV mounted on the wall, a bathroom with those tiny bottles of shampoo that never quite get your hair clean. I sit on the bed still wearing my coat, and stare at the wall for a long time. The silence is deafening after years of living in a house full of noise, children laughing, doors slamming, the constant hum of activity. Finally, I take off my coat. I open my laptop. My hands are steadier now, fueled by purpose instead of fear. I sit on the bed, open my laptop and draft an email to Richard Grayson. My fingers fly across the keyboard and for the first time in days I feel clear, focused, certain. The subject line, counteroffer. The body, I'll see you in court. I read it 3 times. 4. Making sure there's no room for misinterpretation, no weakness he can exploit. Then I check the time. 11:56 p.m. I hit send at 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the deadline. I imagine Richard checking his email in the morning, expecting my surrender, finding my declaration of war instead. Then I open a second email. This one goes to a journalist I used to know, someone I met years ago at one of Marcus's networking events, back when I still attended those things. Her name is Rebecca Choi, and she writes for a major business publication. She loves a good David versus Goliath story. I remember her telling me once over champagne at some gallery opening that the best stories are the ones where the underdog has nothing to lose. Well, I have nothing to lose now. I attach the partnership agreement, the one I found in Marcus's study, the one that proves his empire was built on stolen ground. My hands don't shake as I type. I attach the partnership agreement and write, "Interested?" I don't explain. I don't plead. I just send it and wait. She responds before I even close my laptop. "Very. Call me." I smile for the first time in days. It's not a happy smile. It's the smile of someone who's just realized they have ammunition. Marcus didn't know it yet, but his empire was built on stolen ground, and I was about to pull the foundation out from under him. The divorce hearing is set for 3 weeks later, in a courthouse in Lower Manhattan that smells like floor polish and decades of other people's misery. The building is old, with high ceilings and marble floors that echo with every footstep. Marcus arrives in a tailored suit, flanked by Richard Grayson and 2 associate lawyers carrying briefcases that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He looks confident, relaxed even, like this is just another business meeting. I arrive alone, in a simple black dress I bought at a department store on sale. I'm carrying a single folder in my hands. My lawyer Nina Reyes meets me at the courthouse steps. She's in her 40s, sharp-eyed and sharp-dressed, with a reputation for taking on cases other lawyers won't touch. "You ready?" she asks. The courtroom is smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lighting, rows of benches that remind me of church pews. The judge's bench sits elevated at the front, imposing and final. The judge is a woman in her 60s named Carol Winters. She has short gray hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looks tired, like she's seen 1,000 cases just like this and knows exactly how they'll end. Richard Grayson stands first. He's good at his job, I'll give him that. He paints a picture of me as unstable, absent, unfit. He talks about my postpartum depression like it's a character flaw instead of a medical condition. He mentions the therapy sessions I stopped attending, conveniently leaving out that I stopped because Marcus told me we couldn't afford it anymore, right before he bought his 3rd luxury car. Then he brings forward his first witness, Diane. My mother-in-law walks to the stand in a Chanel suit, and those pearls she never takes off. She places her hand on the Bible, swears to tell the truth, and proceeds to lie through her perfectly veneered teeth. "Angelina was never maternal," she says, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy. "She abandoned her children emotionally. She spent money recklessly on herself while Marcus worked tirelessly to provide for the family." I watch her lie under oath. I don't react. I don't cry. I just watch. Richard calls 2 more witnesses, friends of Marcus's who testify that I seemed distant at social gatherings, that I didn't seem interested in the children. They're good liars too. They've practiced. Then it's Nina's turn. She doesn't call any witnesses. She doesn't need to. She simply stands and says, "Your Honor, my client's husband claims he built his empire alone, but the company he's hiding assets in doesn't legally belong to him." She places the partnership agreement on the table in front of Judge Winters. The room goes silent. Marcus's face drains of color. Richard Grayson's confident smile falters. Judge Winters picked up the document, and everything changed. Judge Winters reads the partnership agreement slowly, her expression unreadable. The courtroom is so quiet I can hear the clock on the wall ticking. Marcus shifts in his seat. Richard whispers something to him urgent and low. "Mr. Grayson," Judge Winters says looking up, "can you explain this?" Richard stands, smoothing his tie. "Your Honor, that agreement is 16 years old. The partnership was dissolved." "Was it?" Nina interrupts. "Because according to this document, dissolution requires formal transfer of intellectual property and assets. No such transfer was ever filed. I have documentation from the state proving it." She slides another folder across to the judge. Judge Winters orders an immediate audit of Marcus's company. The hearing is adjourned for 2 weeks while forensic accountants dig through years of financial records. David, who is called as a witness for the next hearing. I watch him walk into that courtroom 2 weeks later with 15 years of silence on his shoulders. He's wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit, his hands clasped in front of him. He looks nervous, But when he sits in the witness stand and places his hand on the Bible, his voice is steady. He tells the truth. All of it. How Marcus convinced him the company was failing. How Marcus showed him falsified financial statements. How he walked away with nothing, believing he was doing the right thing, protecting his family from debt that didn't exist. Marcus tries to argue. He claims David abandoned the partnership, that the agreement was void because David chose to leave, that Nina pulls out email records, messages where Marcus explicitly promised to buy David out, but never did. Messages where Marcus bragged to investors about building the company from the ground up with no partners, no help, just vision and hard work. The journalist I contacted, Rebecca Choi, publishes the story that same week. The headline, Tech Mogul Built Fortune on Stolen Partnership. It goes viral. Marcus's investors start pulling out. His board calls emergency meetings. The company's stock price drops. His face is on every business news site, not as the visionary founder, but as the man who built his empire on lies. Diane stops showing up to court. I notice her absence like a missing tooth, obvious and satisfying, and I sit quietly in the back row watching it all crumble. My children are staying with my sister now, in her apartment in Brooklyn. They ask questions I can't answer yet. Emma wants to know if her father is going to jail. Lucas wants to know if we're poor now. No, I tell them both. We're going to be okay. But I will explain. Soon. The audit revealed something even I didn't expect. Offshore accounts, hidden assets and falsified tax returns. Marcus wasn't just a thief, he was a criminal. Diane Taylor shows up at my sister's apartment unannounced on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm sitting at the kitchen table helping Lucas with his math homework when the buzzer rings. My sister Claire answers it. "There's a Diane Taylor here to see you," she says, her voice tight. I tell Lucas to keep working on his fractions and go downstairs. Diane is standing on the front steps, wearing her pearls and a cream-colored coat that probably costs more than Claire's monthly rent. But there's something different about her today. Her makeup is perfect, but her eyes are red-rimmed. Her hands are shaking slightly. "Angelina, we need to talk," she says. I meet her at the door. I don't invite her in. I don't step outside. I just stand in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're destroying my son," she says. Her voice cracks on the word destroying. "He made a mistake, but you're taking this too far, you're ruining him." I tilt my head, studying her. "A mistake. He tried to erase me. He tried to take my children. He built his entire life on stolen work and lies. He was protecting his family," Diane hisses, stepping closer. "Protecting what's ours. You came from nothing, Angelina. Nothing. And we gave you everything. This is how you repay us?" I feel something cold settle in my chest. It's not anger anymore. It's clarity. "You didn't give me anything," I say quietly. "I earned it. Every dinner I hosted, every investor I charmed, every late night I spent working on his presentations while you looked down on me like I was dirt on your expensive shoes. I earned all of it." Diane's face twists. "If you keep going, you'll ruin him. The family will lose everything. His reputation, the business, everything we've built." "You mean everything I built," I interrupt. "Everything David built, everything Marcus stole." Her voice drops to a whisper, desperate now. "Please, he's my son." I look at her, really look at her. This woman who made me feel small for 15 years. This woman who testified against me under oath, who called me neglectful and unstable and unfit. This woman who smiled when Marcus humiliated me in front of 50 people. I smile. It's a small smile, cold and final. "Good," I say. Diane stares at me like I'm a stranger. Maybe I am. The Angelina she knew died in that living room 3 months ago. The Angelina she knew smiled and nodded and apologized for taking up space. This version doesn't forgive. Diane leaves without another word. She walks down the steps, gets into a waiting car, and drives away. I watch until the car disappears around the corner. That night I get a call from Nina. They're offering a new settlement. Full custody. The house. $4 million. I close my eyes, leaning against Claire's kitchen counter. What about David? They'll settle with him separately. He'll get what's owed. Half the company's current value plus damages. It's a good offer, Angelina. Better than we'd get in trial. I exhale slowly. Accept it. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted my life back. But Marcus wasn't done yet. 2 days before the settlement is finalized, I receive an envelope at Claire's apartment. It arrives by courier. No return address. Just my name typed on a white label. Inside is a single printed email, dated 6 months ago. The header shows it was sent from Marcus's personal account to Richard Grayson's. The subject line, "If she fights back." My hands start shaking before I even read the body. "Richard, if Angelina tries to fight the divorce, we move forward with Plan B. We use the medical records from her postpartum depression. We frame her as a danger to the kids. No judge will give her custody if we paint the right picture. I have Diane and 3 others ready to testify. She won't see it coming. She never does." I read it 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. He planned this. All of it. The public humiliation, the testimonies, the generous settlement that was designed to make me feel grateful for scraps. It was all calculated to break me so completely that I'd never fight back. The medical records he was going to use, those were from the darkest period of my life, right after Lucas was born, when I couldn't get out of bed some days, when the world felt gray and heavy and impossible. Marcus held me then. He told me it would be okay. He drove me to therapy appointments, and all along he was keeping receipts, building a case, waiting for the day he might need to use my pain against me. I sit on Claire's couch, the email trembling in my hands. Claire comes out of the kitchen, sees my face and immediately sits beside me. What is it? I hand her the email. She reads it, and her face goes pale. Who sent this to you? I don't know, but I have a guess. Someone in Richard's office. Someone with a conscience. Someone who saw that email and couldn't live with it. I forward the email to Nina with a single line. Is this admissible? She responds in seconds. Oh honey, this is gold. The hearing was in 12 hours, and I was going to make sure Marcus answered for every lie. The courtroom is packed the next morning. News cameras line the back wall. Rebecca's article made this case public, and now everyone wants to see how it ends. Marcus sits at his table, pale and rigid. His suit is perfectly pressed, but there are dark circles under his eyes. Richard Grayson won't meet my gaze. Judge Winters enters, and the room falls silent. Everyone stands. She takes her seat, adjusts her glasses, and looks directly at Marcus. Let's proceed, she says. Nina stands first. She's wearing a navy suit today, her hair pulled back, her expression calm and controlled. She doesn't waste time with preamble. Your Honor, I'd like to enter new evidence into the record. She presents the email, the one where Marcus plotted to use my mental health against me. She reads it aloud, slowly, so every word sinks in. Her voice is steady, but I can hear the anger underneath. We frame her as a danger to the kids. No judge will give her custody if we paint the right picture. She won't see it coming. She never does. The courtroom is silent except for Nina's voice. I watch Marcus's face. He's staring at the table, jaw clenched, hands flat against the wood. Richard Grayson stands abruptly. Your Honor, that email was obtained illegally. It was mailed to my client anonymously. Nina interrupts smoothly. Perfectly legal, and it demonstrates a clear pattern of manipulation and fraud. Judge Winters reviews the document, her expression hardening with each line she reads. Nina calls her final witness, a forensic accountant named Dr. Patricia Moreno. She's a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She testifies that Marcus funneled over $2 million into offshore accounts under his mother's name to hide assets from me during the divorce proceedings. Diane is in the gallery. I watch her face go white. The accountant presents spreadsheets, bank statements, transaction records. It's all there, documented and undeniable. Marcus didn't just steal from David and me. He committed tax fraud, wire fraud, and a dozen other crimes I don't fully understand but know are serious. Judge Winters asks Marcus to stand. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything to say? Marcus opens his mouth, closes it. His lawyer whispers something urgent in his ear, but Marcus just shakes his head. No, Your Honor, he finally says. His voice is barely audible. Judge Winters removes her glasses and sets them on the bench. She looks at Marcus for a long moment, and I can see the disgust in her eyes. I've presided over a lot of ugly divorces in my career, she says. I've seen people fight over money, over property, over children. But this is cruelty disguised as strategy. This is systematic abuse dressed up in legal language. She looks down at her notes, then back up at Marcus. I'm ruling in favor of Mrs. Taylor. Full custody of both children, the family home and all assets acquired during the marriage, and I'm awarding her $4.5 million in damages. She turns to the prosecutor's table, where a district attorney has been sitting quietly throughout the proceedings. I'm also recommending criminal charges for fraud, tax evasion, and perjury. Mr. Taylor, you'll remain in custody pending arraignment. 2 bailiffs approach Marcus's table. Richard tries to argue, but Judge Winters cuts him off with a look. I watch them put handcuffs on my husband, ex-husband. I correct myself. He doesn't look at me as they lead him away. Diane stands in the gallery, her face ashen. Another bailiff approaches her. She's being charged as an accomplice. She signed the offshore account documents, accepted the hidden money, lied under oath. I walked out of that courtroom a free woman, but Marcus and Diane walked out in handcuffs. The media calls it the divorce of the decade. For weeks my face is on news sites and social media. People I haven't spoken to in years reach out with messages of support or thinly veiled curiosity. I ignore most of them. Marcus is charged with fraud and tax evasion. Diane is charged as an accomplice. The trial is set for 6 months away, but their lawyers are already negotiating plea deals. Marcus will likely serve 18 months in a minimum security facility. Diane will get probation and community service. The company David and I now co-own is restructured. We hire new management, clean up the books, and implement policies that Marcus never bothered with. Fair wages, ethical practices, transparency. David moves his family to New York. We become business partners and surprisingly friends. My children move back into the mansion with me. It takes time. They're confused, hurt, angry. Emma barely speaks to me for the first month. She's been fed a story about her mother for so long that the truth is hard to accept. Lucas is younger, more adaptable, but he has nightmares about his father being taken away in handcuffs. I'm patient. I'm present. I make them breakfast every morning. I help with homework. I sit with them when they cry. I answer their questions honestly, even when the answers hurt. "Why did Dad do those things?" Lucas asks one night. We're sitting on his bed, the dinosaur nightlight casting shadows on the wall. "I don't know, baby," I say. "Sometimes people make really bad choices. That doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It just means he made mistakes." "Big mistakes," Lucas says. "Yes, very big mistakes." Emma is harder. She's 14, old enough to understand betrayal, old enough to feel it deeply. One night she comes into my room at midnight. I'm still awake, reading, unable to sleep like I have been for months. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby." She sits on the edge of my bed, picking at her thumbnail. "Do you hate Dad?" I think about it. Really think. I've spent so much time being angry, being hurt, being determined to survive. But hate? No, I say finally. I don't hate him. I don't love him anymore either. And that's okay. She looks at me, her eyes wet. Is it okay that I still love him? Even after everything? I pull her into a hug. She's almost as tall as me now, but she still fits against my shoulder like she did when she was little. "Of course it's okay," I whisper into her hair. "He's your father. You're allowed to love him and be angry at him at the same time. You're allowed to feel however you feel." She hugs me back, tight and fierce. It's the first real hug we've shared in months. I realize something in that moment. Revenge didn't heal me, but choosing myself did. Choosing to fight, to stand up, to refuse to disappear. That's what saved me. I thought the story ended there. But life had one more surprise. 6 months after the trial, I receive a letter. It arrives in a standard white envelope, my name and address handwritten in Marcus's familiar script. The return address is a facility in upstate New York, where he's serving his sentence. I stare at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Claire is visiting, sitting at my kitchen table with coffee and concern written all over her face. "You don't have to read it," she says. "I know, but I do. I need to." The letter is long, 5 pages of cramped handwriting. It's full of apologies and justifications, explanations that don't quite explain anything. He says he loved me, that he got lost in ambition, in his mother's expectations, in the pressure to succeed. He says Diane pushed him to protect the family name, that she convinced him I wasn't strong enough to handle the business world, that I would hold him back. He asks if I'll let the kids visit. He says he's in therapy. He says he's sorry. I read it once, slowly, sitting at the kitchen table while Claire watches me carefully. "What does it say?" she asks. "He's sorry. Are you going to write back?" I fold the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, and place it in the drawer where I keep important documents. Not because I treasure it, but because someday Emma and Lucas might want to read it. Someday they might need to know their father tried, in his own broken way, to make amends. But I don't write back. I don't owe him closure. I don't owe him forgiveness. I owe myself peace, and peace, I've learned, isn't about letting go of anger. It's about refusing to carry it anymore. It's about building a life so full and rich and real that there's no room left for bitterness. I take the kids to the beach that weekend. We drive to the Hamptons, rent a small house right on the water, and spend 3 days building sandcastles, and collecting shells and eating ice cream for dinner because we can. We laugh. We don't talk about Marcus. We don't talk about the trial or the mansion or any of it. Emma finds a perfect sand dollar, unbroken and white. She shows it to me with wonder in her eyes. "Can I keep it?" she asks. "Of course." Lucas buries me in sand up to my neck, giggling the whole time. When he's done, he sits beside me and says, "You look like a mermaid, Mom." A very sandy mermaid, I agree. For the first time in years, I feel light. I never wrote back. Some stories don't need an ending. They just need to be left behind. A year later, I reopen my graphic design studio. It's small, cozy, mine. I rent a space in Brooklyn, not far from where my original studio used to be. The walls are brick, the windows are huge, and I fill it with plants and artwork, and the kind of creative chaos I forgot I loved. I take on clients I actually care about, nonprofits working on causes that matter, small businesses trying to make it, artists who need help getting their work seen. I turn down the corporate clients who offer big money for soulless work. I don't need the money anymore. I need the meaning. David and I remain business partners and friends. The company is thriving under new leadership. We meet once a month to review financials and strategy, but mostly we talk about our kids. He sends me photos of Lily's soccer games. I send him updates on Emma and Lucas. We're the family Marcus tried to destroy and accidentally built. David jokes one day over coffee. He's right. We are. I start dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee, conversation, learning to trust. A colleague introduces me to a man named Thomas, who teaches history at a local college. He's kind, quiet, interested in who I am now, not who I used to be. We go to museums. We talk about books. We take things slow. I cut my hair short just above my shoulders. I wear colors I used to avoid, bright reds and deep purples and sunny yellows. I laugh louder. I take up space. One night Emma looks at me across the dinner table and says, "You seem happy, Mom." I pause, fork halfway to my mouth, and realize she's right. I am. Not because Marcus is gone. Not because I won, but because I finally chose myself, and that choice saved my life. The mansion is still mine, but it's not a house anymore. It's a home. I host a small dinner party on a Saturday in October, exactly 2 years after Marcus stood in that living room and tried to erase me. The guest list is carefully chosen. Close friends, David and his wife Grace, Claire and her new girlfriend, a few colleagues from the studio. We eat pasta I made from scratch, drink wine that doesn't cost a fortune, and tell stories that make us laugh until we cry. David tells the story of how we met, how I slid that partnership agreement across a cafe table and changed both our lives. Grace adds details he forgets. Everyone listens, rapt. Someone asks me, "Do you regret any of it?" I pause, glass of wine in hand, thinking carefully. "I regret staying silent for so long," I say. "I regret not fighting back sooner, but I don't regret fighting back, not for a second." Claire raises her glass. "To fighting back." Everyone echoes it, glasses clinking. "To fighting back." Later, after everyone leaves, after I've cleaned up the dishes and turned off most of the lights, I stand in the living room where it all began, the room where Marcus humiliated me in front of 50 people, the room where I lost myself. The chandelier still hangs above, but I've changed the bulbs to something warmer, softer. The furniture is different now, pieces I chose, not pieces Diane selected. The walls are painted a color I like. The shadows are different now. They're mine. I think about the girl I was at 23, the one who gave up her dreams for love, who believed sacrifice was the same as partnership, who smiled and nodded until she disappeared. I wish I could tell her, "You're going to lose yourself, but you're also going to find yourself, and the woman you become will be stronger than anything he could break." I turn off the lights. I lock the door. I go upstairs to my children, who are both in Emma's room watching a movie on her laptop, tangled together like puppies. "Room for one more?" I ask. They make space. I climb onto the bed between them, and we watch the rest of the movie together. That night, I sleep deeply, dreamlessly, free. Some stories end with revenge. Mine ended with something better, reclaiming who I was always meant to be. People ask me if I'm angry, if I still think about Marcus. The truth, sometimes, but anger isn't the weight it used to be. It's just a memory now, like the scar from a wound that healed wrong but healed anyway. I see Diane once, about 18 months after the trial. I'm at a grocery store in Manhattan, picking up ingredients for dinner. She's in the produce section, examining avocados with the same critical eye she used to examine me. She's older now, smaller somehow. Her hair is still perfectly styled, her clothes still expensive, but there's something diminished about her. She's carrying a single bag of groceries, shopping alone. She sees me too. Our eyes meet across a display of organic apples. For a moment we just look at each other. She looks away first. I keep walking. I don't need her apology. I don't need her regret. I've built a life she can't touch, a life that has nothing to do with her or her son or the family that tried to erase me. My kids are thriving. Emma is 16 now, talking about colleges, about becoming a lawyer. "I want to help people like you," she says, "people who get treated unfairly." Lucas is 13, obsessed with architecture, constantly sketching buildings and bridges and impossible structures. They're proud of me, and that's all I ever wanted. I'm 39 now. I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in the past 2 years. I've been humiliated, betrayed, broken down and built back up. I've learned that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. I've learned that being quiet doesn't mean being defeated. It just means you're listening. And when you're done listening, you strike. If I could go back to that moment in the living room, the moment Marcus said I agreed to leave, the moment 50 pairs of eyes turned to me waiting for confirmation, I'd tell myself, "Don't say anything. Don't cry. Just remember everything. And when the time comes, take it all back." Because I did, and I'd do it again. My name is Angelina Taylor. I'm 39 years old, and this is the story of how I lost everything, found a dusty envelope, and became the woman I was always meant to be. If this story reminded you that it's never too late to take your life back, leave a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe because every woman deserves to know that silence doesn't mean surrender, it just means you're listening, and when you're done listening, you strike.